Welcome, Florentin de Lopinot, to the podcast, The Hydrogen Leader. I'm very happy to have you here.
I'm very happy to be here. Thanks, Bjorn, for the invitation.
Thank you. As you know, this format targets to inspire professionals in the hydrogen economy. We talk about leadership, we talk about your growth hacks, why you became so successful, and also your unique insights into the hydrogen economy. Before we do that, I want to ask you a very basic question. Who is Florentin de Lopinot?
I'm the proud father of 2 teenage daughters and a lovely wife. And I strive to earn their love and every day. And on a professional note, I'm also a business person.
For sure.
I've been spending almost 25 years in the energy sector, mostly for Total Energies across several countries.
And you are now the CEO of Thiel Mobility, correct?
Correct.
We will talk about that in more detail, but I think you're a very important person in the industry. Before we come to that what are you passionate about?
It's a good question. I have many passions, but I think the one that really goes on top of my list is building teams, recruiting, nurturing talent, trusting people, putting them with like-minded people and environment, and then seeing them deliver, and hopefully inspiring them, motivating them, and helping them deliver.
Is that also because somebody did this with you? Yeah, was there some important leader who developed and inspired you?
I had the unique opportunity of being exposed to different countries once again, and different business settings, in different jobs. But every step of the way, I was lucky enough to have, especially at the onset of my career, to have managers I trust, respect, and look up to. So it's very important as you learn, as you develop your career, to find role models, people that you can relate to and that push you to go beyond.
Yeah, I also do this, that I try to find basically good things from others and then try to learn. We met the first time in Munich at a conference, I think this year. And what impressed me was that when I invited you for this leadership podcast you might have not heard before, you immediately committed and said yes. Yeah. So are you a very spontaneous leader?
Well, when it comes to getting an opportunity to speak about our company, Thiel Mobility, yes, I try to seize every single opportunity.
Okay.
But no, not all my decisions are as straightforward and as fast as the one you mentioned.
Yeah.
No, I try to reason, to think before I act, to exercise my critical judgment. Because part of what we're asked to do as business, as managers, as executives, as business leaders, is also to be able to say no. And many times I say no more often than I say yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And I think also as a CEO, you have a responsibility to allow discussion, right? Because if you, at the very beginning of the topic, say where you stand, people will be frightened to express their. So you're also a good listener.
It's good advice and a good and very accurate, And it's you can be carried away as you rise through the ranks and think that your judgment is more important than anyone else's. But it's important to listen to the expert, to listen to your staff, to give them the opportunity to speak up, and then to keep your own intuition and decision to the end of the process if it's called for. Because many a times, just by nudging and asking the right question,
the team comes to the conclusion on its own. It's better,
and it's probably also much better than what your first your intuition or your instinct told you.
I noticed in preparing for this interview that you spend a lot of time in Africa. So how did you get there? And is there a special passion that you have for Africa?
Yeah, it's true, Bjorn. Africa holds a special place into my heart. I started in Africa actually, as my first job was in South Africa in 2000, end of 1999, at a time of change for the country. Significant change. It was a few years after apartheid, but it was a time of hope, economic development, a program of equality towards historically disadvantaged South Africans.
You were there in your role for Total, right?
Yes, it was my first job. And ever since that time, I've been lucky enough to spend a lot of time in Africa. Indeed, I was posted in Egypt for 5 years at the time of political change as well, because it was about the revolution. Maybe we'll get to speak about that, and also in East Africa, in Uganda.
Yeah.
And yes, I feel passionate about what Africa can bring, but also of what we can do and contribute to its development. For example, I was involved in road safety initiatives in Africa, which I am still passionate about.
Oh, what is the initiative for? So it's called road safety?
It's called Safeway Right Way.
Okay.
I was the chairperson of Safeway Right Way in Uganda, which was an NGO supported by the World Bank,
right,
to promote road safety, to reduce the number of traffic accidents, which is impairing development, costing lives. And I was, as I became chairperson of that organization, I spearheaded a program,
right,
which is quite unique, which is East Africa's first school for professional drivers, because it might be
taxi drivers.
No, actually truck drivers.
Truck drivers, okay.
It must be I don't think a lot of your listeners are aware of this, but in many countries in Africa, actually in most countries in Africa, truck drivers are learned by association.
All right.
So they learn on the job by becoming turn boys, and then learning as they go. There's no school to learn about how to behave as a professional driver. So we created that first school, which was a remarkable example of what can be done to actually promote skills and create a new generation of safer drivers for good transportation. That being said, African roads remain a significant issue, and I recently lost a friend in a tragic road accident in East Africa, in Uganda, which goes to show that we are still not where we should be.
Please do me a favor and subscribe to our channel. If you like the content, it helps a lot to grow the channel. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing this. And as you spend so many times or many years of your professional life in Africa, are you now also adapting, or have you adapted the business culture a bit and bringing this to the French business culture, to Total? What is the African way of doing business?
I would say what Africa taught me is self-reliance. By that I mean that if you want to get something done in many countries in Africa, you have to do it not just by yourself, but you have to do it with your teams, and you have to do it organically. If you have say a logistic problem, you don't call a BCG or a consultant, to troubleshoot whatever issue you have. You build your own warehouse,
right?
Or you increase the size of your fleet. Yeah. And then when you build that warehouse, or when you increase your fleet, you run it by yourself.
Right.
Then you look possibly for partners to help you, for sure, operate it, build it, but you have to drive it yourself. Because in many countries, you don't necessarily have a large pool of reliable or capable at scale suppliers or customers that can help you. So you do this, and then after you've done it, then you can share the rewards and include partners along the way. So that feeling of having to do things by yourself, I think, is very helpful for in an entrepreneurial setting in Europe, and in many actually settings in Europe, because too often we're we rely on other people rather than doing things by yourself. And when you do them by yourself, you realize that um, uh, I mean, you need to have a vision, but you need to focus on its execution. And if it doesn't work, you can only blame yourself. So yes, self-reliance is part of what I learned in Africa.
So I think you share a lot of personal stuff already, which I really appreciate. And I have seen some comments to your post that you are making on LinkedIn. And there the people say you are an inspirational leader and that you do everything with enthusiastic and empathy. Is this the way you move things forward? Try to inspire people and really be with it with your heart?
Yeah, I'm okay. Probably what they said is too nice to be completely true,
Yeah.
but thanks for that. I
The comments are real, so they are out there.
Okay,
Yeah?
so I did not publish them.
No, those were from different people.
Thanks for that. I think, okay, I don't have any special power, but I try to meditate every day
Okay.
for half an hour in the early morning before I start my day, to give some sense of clarity and to get rid of the clutter that we have in our mind, you know. I think you know what I'm talking about, because I know that you also walk and take some time to yourself.
Yes.
So I try to have that routine. Then I try to stay both open and focused at the same time. You know, kind of the way a camera, the lens of a camera operates.
Okay, yeah, that's a nice analogy.
It's open because it needs to receive light.
Yes.
But it needs to be also focused so that it sees well.
Right.
So that's how I like to see my day, alternation of being open and focused.
That's great. Yeah.
And I think it relates to some people, or the person that I was lucky enough to manage and maybe that posted these comments.
Yeah.
But it's an invitation to continue. I'll take it like that.
Great. No, but I think this is a perfect handover to your current role, because you are now a CEO in a very exposed environment. So what do the people expect from you as a CEO, and how would you describe your role?
Okay, that's 2 or 3 different questions, but
take it slowly.
Okay. I would say fundamentally, I see the role of a CEO as doing 3 things. The first is a vision. So it comes from not only the CEO, for sure. It comes from the expectation of the shareholders, from the expectation of the stakeholders. But it's what's your vision, and what are you aspiring to, and how do you communicate on that? So I would say a CEO does that. Is capable of crafting and communicating
the vision.
that vision to all the stakeholders around the company.
Yes.
I would say the second role we play is nurturing team. So finding the best talent, growing them, recruiting them, coaching them, promoting them, supporting them. And the third thing is obviously making sure that there's always enough money in the bank. So that comes from making sure that we generate revenues, that we control our costs, that we raise equity and funds when required. So yeah, I would say
keep the company running.
Keep the company running. So it's about vision, it's about teams, and it's about cash.
Right.
Those are the 3 things.
I can say yes to that.
Okay.
So I think for many, and we will come to the hydrogen part, but just to finish this nicely, the CEO role is a glamorous role, and certainly there are some advantages with it. Yeah. So what is the best thing about having this job?
I would say that you're very connected to the outside world. So you're a team leader, of course, within your organization, but you have roots and antennas that connect you to the outside world, probably more than anyone else in the organization. So you relate to the various stakeholders, customers, suppliers, communities, public sector, regulators, etc. And these connections are extremely wealthy and healthy, as a matter of fact, because being in a corporate function, you can be among your peers or among your colleagues, but being connected to the outside world brings unique perspective and also capacities to develop. So when I join my engineering team or commercial team for negotiations or for whatever, I try to help them and hack their way into fast tracking projects,
making an
impact and supporting them. So this comes from my experience, but also from my capacity to connect to the outside world.
Yeah, you're right. But there is also, I would not call it a dark side of the CEO, but also challenges. So can you share, just to give a little bit meat to that, one of your most challenging situations where you were really challenged as a leader, despite from the outset you had a very great job?
Yeah. There's a tougher side.
That's the right expression. Yes.
There's a tougher side. So it's not about the CEO is not for sure about prestige. It's about responsibility, and sometimes it can be you have to take tough decisions and decide between two hard choices, which are neither of them are really satisfactory. But you have to find a good enough compromise. There's that. Then there's because you deal with people at all times. Then people issues, starting with health issues, or can affect you and can affect the organization. And you have to be present at all times for your staff. And sometimes it shows, it puts you in awkward situation. I'll just give you an example to illustrate what I mean. I think many CEOs have dealt with the loss and the death of one of their colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
I was managing director of a Total Energy affiliate in Africa when this happened to me. And it was, it's a tough
experience.
Tough experience for the families, but also for you as an individual to cope and to deal with that and to support the families, but the rest of the staff. During the Egyptian revolution,
you were there, right, in the middle of it.
Yes,
you were also there for Total.
I was there for Total Energies. I was commercial director at that time. I was not managing director of that affiliate, right. But we had a unique situation to deal with the rest with the CEO at the time, which is that the bank system collapsed.
Right.
So we could not pay salaries.
Right.
So how do you deal with that when you have staff out there that you can't connect to, that can't come to the office, and the salaries don't get paid? So we had to organize for things, which points us to the fact that organization are human teams at the end of the day, and it's about how you handle your people
as a team and not as an organization, right?
Exactly. And how do you handle people and situations?
Yeah, I could imagine. Yeah, so thank you. So now coming more to the hydrogen space, we talked about your joint venture, Thiel Mobility. Why was this joint venture founded?
Yes, so it was a joint venture created, as you know, between Total Energies and Air Liquide a bit more than a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
After several years of discussions.
Right. Internal discussions.
Yes, between the two organizations, which
right.
which work across different projects. But this one was launched last year, and the idea behind it was to create a tool to fast track hydrogen mobility in Europe,
Right.
with a special focus on long-haul trucking. What is unique about this joint venture is that you have two big players in their own space: an energy company, multi-energy company, and a gas integrated player, industrial gas player, that bring to the table different things. So on the one hand, Air Liquide brings its mastery of the hydrogen supply chain as a producer of hydrogen, but also as a integrator of equipment to distribute
They have
hydrogen.
refueling stations and solutions, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And on the other side, Total Energy brings its knowledge of the management of network of stations, but also the commercial capacity to sell energies to commercial and B2B customers.
Right.
So it's a match made in heaven, because you have two big players which are located on different ends or of the value chain,
Right.
that decide, okay, to bring all their eggs into a single basket, all their assets, so all their stations, but also a lot of their development capacity through staffs and projects that were transferred to Chill Mobility at inception, some of which are still being transferred, but we inherited that. So it's a lot of expertise, a lot of projects, but also quality people to run the company.
Are you now a startup? Because do you think to be now part, it's 50-50, I think, but you're no longer part of your corporate organization. So
Yes.
How big is it? How agile?
Yeah. So a couple of us were seconded to this
Right.
joint venture, managers and especially. So, but we are recruiting people as well, as a standalone company. So we are a mixture of, let's say, a spin-off,
Yes.
because we take over existing assets from our shareholder, stations and projects, but also people. But at the same time, we are a startup, because we have created a unique standalone organization with its own governance, with its own process, with its own IT, with its own access to the market, that can run on its own without the support of these two organizations, which remain shareholders for sure, and which as shareholders take major decisions. But yes, we're a bit of a startup and a spin-off. At the same time, unlike a startup, we already have found our business model. So we are more of a scale-up than a startup.
Okay.
And, we can speak about our business model later on, but we are rolling out something that we know.
You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to give you have 40 people, or how big is it?
Yes, we are 39 today.
Okay. But with the ambition to scale up also.
With the ambition to scale up, we are present in 5 countries. We operate in 5 countries. We have 3 offices.
Right.
One in Berlin, one in Utrecht in the Netherlands, and one in Nanterre next to Paris.
Okay, great. So, you know that I have been involved in the build-up of H2 Mobility. I spent 1.5 years trying to build a similar structure, only for Germany. But we had lots of discussions about the so-called chicken and egg problem. And so if there are no cars, there are no stations. If there are no stations, there are no cars. So I have read an interview, and you don't like to talk about chicken and egg. You have a different view. Can you share that?
Yes, well, it's a bit of a joke, but I see ourselves as the chicken coup. Which is that we are not going to solve the philosophical question of whether you need the egg came first or the chicken came first. We built a house where we can both hatch eggs and nurture chickens, and then create an ecosystem where we have the important thing is not the animal analogy. It's that you need locations, you need a steady supply of hydrogen, you need customers, and you need trucks and vehicles available. And the company that we created, Teal Mobility, is a project to bring about all of these elements to create an ecosystem that works.
And are you more now executing a plan that you have agreed with your shareholders? I guess so. Or are you, let's say, taking a step-by-step approach and see where the market goes? Do you have a bold plan in your back?
Yeah, it's a mix of both.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, when two major shareholders like Air Liquide and Total Energies decide to launch such a project, they have a plan. They have a business plan. They do a careful analysis. I was involved in that discussion from the onset before the company was started. At the same time, the uncertainty remains, and you have to adapt your plans, and you have to, manage the pace of change and the pace of development according to what happens in reality, to the support that you get from the various stakeholders. So the issue is really about speed, the pace of development, rather than whether the project is called for or not.
Okay.
We have I think all of us share it's more than an intuition or a belief. It's the conviction, let's say, that hydrogen will play a major role.
Yes.
In the energy system of tomorrow. The issue is at which pace? Is it too soon? Is it too late? Is it at the right pace? And for sure, if we believe hydrogen can play a role, we also are convinced that mobility is one of the low-hanging fruits to make that closer to reality.
Because the people are more willing to pay higher prices for hydrogen, or what is
because it's a key enabler.
The low-hanging fruit, you mean?
I would say because it's a key enabler of decarbonization, especially
Okay.
for long-haul transportation. There are very few alternatives to what hydrogen can bring in that aspect.
And how many stations are you already? You are now in the business for 1 year. How
Yes.
many stations do you have operational, and what do you want to do next year and in the long term?
Sure. So today we have 11 stations
Okay.
in operation
Throughout Europe.
in 5 countries.
Okay.
So Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, France, and Germany.
Right.
We have also 6 more stations that are under transfer or under commissioning.
Right.
So we should be at roughly 20 stations before the end of this year, 2025. Okay, and obviously we have a plan to scale that up to reach many more stations across the various corridors that matter in Europe.
And it's Europe, or do you have focus countries?
It's the target is Europe, clearly, but we start with those 5 countries where we believe the case for decarbonization is the strongest today. But obviously, I mentioned corridors earlier, and corridors matter because that's where the flow of goods are being shipped, and corridors do not end or start at a border. So if you want to be where it matters, you have to go beyond your initial countries gradually at the right pace. So in the future, we will expand to Southern Europe and probably to the Baltic countries to be present once again where trucks
because
are
there
moving.
is the logistic flowing, right?
Exactly.
And so my understanding is you have a bold plan, but you still want to be responsive to and listening to the market. But it's not the case that you only build a station after securing full demand, right? You are bolder than that, right?
Yes. The initial plan, I mean, the plan is to build a core network of stations in the right locations across corridor next to logistical hubs. So why it's a core network? It's because it's connected or very close to supply options and plants that make hydrogen accessible. But also because you have a large pool of customers around those areas. And gradually, as you move beyond this core network, then you can take more traffic risk, but also secure additional requests and from off-takers, as the market mature. So you have to look at it gradually. You cannot reduce all your risk at the beginning. You have to take some risk, but it has to be a calculated risk. And then also with the capacity of doubling down, of fast-tracking investments as the market takes off, and as more trucks become available and as customers become more willing, to use our facilities.
How long does it take you from a decision, we build this station, to actually have it operational?
Too long.
Okay, but there is
That's
a rule
what-
of thumb.
That's what we keep on telling ourselves within Till Mobility.
Okay.
Too long. I would say historically, the projects I look at and that we inherited from Air Liquide and TotalEnergies took more than 3 years.
Really? 3 years
Yes,
to build
three-
a hydrogen?
3 to 4 years
Wow.
from the origination, let's say,
Yes.
from the concept to the execution. We're trying hard with the team to go under 3 years to 2.5, and gradually to be under 2 years.
Yes.
But you have to acknowledge that hydrogen is not a commodity yet,
Mm-hmm.
not just as a molecule, but as a sector.
Yeah.
So you're doing. We're still talking about projects,
Okay.
not yet products. When you source equipment, when you look for customers, okay, it's a lot of tailor-made solutions at time. So that's what every time takes extra time. But gradually, as hydrogen becomes a commodity, then we should be able to fast-track development
And
all
what
along the development chain.
is this public permit process taking so long, or what is the main driver for these long?
Yes, it's a lot of you have a lot of levers to pull or to push,
Right.
or buttons to push. You have subsidies. Subsidies take.
They take time. Yes.
They take time. Governments are involved. They need to do their due diligence. They need to do their analysis. You have to secure land. Land can be scarce, especially in areas that matter to us, because that's where traffic flows can be expected. So to find the right land and to negotiate. Then you have the construction in itself, the preparation of the site, the civil engineering side, the availability of equipment. And we are all aware that the last couple of years have been it's been quite a stretch to find spare parts and components or transformers. On
That is where HiFinder comes in.
That's that's your cue to
That's
speak
our
about
job.
your own business.
Yes.
For sure. So all of this process takes some time, and because we are developing things, it's people, negotiations,
Mhm.
and bringing customers on board also. So that aligning all these ducks into a single row can take a bit of time.
What you probably have also calculated how much refuelings you need from truck to operate a station in a viable way, because we have seen stations close down after the public funding is gone. So how many usage do you need to say it's a viable case to operate these stations?
Yeah, I would say the rule of thumb is that when you have 10 trucks,
Okay.
you can work.
Okay.
You can have a project. Okay. You might not see your money back the day after tomorrow,
Right.
but at least you can have something that flies and gradually turns a profit in after several years.
But this would be a truck fleet of a bigger business,
So it would
which
be
would return for refueling.
yes. So it would be a return to base scenario, but it can also be traffic
Mhm.
that regularly comes. But trucks, the demand for trucks is about a truck in Europe, long haul, long distance, does between 100,000 kilometers to 150,000 kilometers. Depending on the use. So they would consume typically 8 kilos per 100 kilometers. So, rule of thumb, a truck in Europe, hydrogen truck, will take about 10 tons. So when you have 10 trucks for a given station, that's 100 tons. And what we build is 1 ton per day stations. So with capacity to go towards, let's say, 200, 300 trucks 300 tons per year. With 100 tons, which is 10 trucks, you have about 30% utilization,
Right.
which is something that enables you to carry investments in the initial period, and that you can gradually build on to actually increase your business case.
But you are not limited to truck as a policy. I think you probably also look into buses, right? Because it
Correct.
seems to have a similar use case. And we've seen, for example, in Stuttgart now, significant investments in hydrogen bus mobility, right? Is this also something you're looking at?
I mean, our stations are capable of catering for all vehicles,
Right.
all land vehicles.
Yes.
But so for sure, we can do light vehicles, we can do bus, we can do coach, we can do several garbage trucks. The focus on long haul trucks pertains to the fact that hydrogen has a compelling advantage when it comes to replacing diesel in the long run for long haul.
Yeah.
But for sure, we are looking at all types of vehicles. I think coaches, which is slightly different than city bus, probably have more interest for us because they move alongside the same corridors that long haul trucks will
Okay.
move. City bus can be refueled from our stations for sure, but can also be refueled from depots, etc.,
Yeah.
where we have less of a business edge or a business or competitive advantage compared to other players. So I'm not saying we will not do bus, but I'm saying that it will not be the main driver
Focus, yeah.
of where we invest stations.
Yeah. But do you see, for example, H2 Mobility as a competitor? Because I think they also try to go into more truck refueling, right? Is that something that you're worried about, or you're saying, because what struck me by the time when I was working together with the H2 Mobility department, there was a study by advisors that said, we currently have in Germany, for example, 15,000 refueling stations for normal cars. But, and that was related to passenger car, you only need basically 400 stations to cover Germany. And another lesson was that people are refueling not at home, but at work.
Yeah.
And I guess you might have also had some studies on the truck industry, right? What is your insight there?
Yeah.
So a lot of questions, sorry.
Yeah.
So first, competitor?
No, but competitor, for H2 Mobility is a remarkable company.
Yeah.
A pioneer in its own right. It's true, as you said, that their initial focus was on light vehicle. I think they've changed their strategy recently, more towards heavy-duty vehicles, like our focus is. I think, the market will needs several players, many players. So I think it's a
good thing, actually.
It's a good thing that several of us have identified this. And I think it's very sad that some players are shutting down stations, although they're light vehicle stations, because it sends the wrong message. Or it can be interpreted as hydrogen mobility as not being as having less clout and potential for growth.
Yeah.
On our side, what's unique about Thiel Mobility is the fact that we are European. We are a European organization. So as I mentioned, we have 5 countries where we operate from, 11 stations, more to come. Most of those stations are outside of France, so you cannot say that and what we are building is along corridors with a unique payment system, a card system that enables the transporter, whether the transporter is based in Poland or Spain, he can fuel in any of our station and get a single consolidated invoice for all his requirements, which is a unique feature that no other operator in the H2 space today has. And H2 Mobility is a very formidable company in Germany, and I think they are expanding they've expanded in part to Austria.
And Total and Air Liquide are also shareholders of H2 Mobility. So bottom line, it's the same working direction, right?
We have, I think all of us share the fact that long-haul trucking is very attractive for hydrogen, or the other way around, let me put it this way. Hydrogen is a very attractive alternative for diesel and to decarbonize a long-haul trucking.
We recently recorded and published a podcast with the CTO of MAN Trucks, and he was leaning towards a strategy battery first and hydrogen follow. What is your take on this hydrogen mobility versus battery electric mobility? If I understand you correctly, you say for the long haul, it makes sense to do hydrogen.
Yeah. I think in the end, the customer will decide.
Yes.
Which solution suits his needs best.
Yes.
So I don't think I have a better opinion than the CTO of MAN, who's really respected, and I listen with great interest to the podcast. I think what's interesting about MAN is that they are developing both, as you said.
Yes.
So they have and what we share with all the OEM partners, all the truck manufacturers, is the fact that the enemy is carbon. The enemy are emissions.
Right.
So electrification is one of the way of curbing carbon emissions, and battery-equipped vehicles can do that very well. With light vehicles, they are changing the world to a great extent.
Yeah.
Trucks, battery-equipped trucks are coming as well. They are very compelling for last mile, regional delivery, etc. Are they going to be as convenient for long haul? We shall see. I think it's good for customer to have the choice. I think it's about two ways of harnessing energy. One is self-reliant.
There you go.
Self-reliant. So you have your energy within your battery pack, and you just recharge from anode to cathode. You just recharge the battery on a regular basis. The other way is to have energy being brought on board your vehicle. That's through hydrogen. And to go back to MAN, I think what's also interesting, which he shared with you, the fact that they've developed a pre-series.
Yes.
Hydrogen combustion engines, which are coming out in the very near future.
Yes.
Which offer yet another alternative. So you have truck manufacturers developing H2 vehicles. Some of them it's one technology.
Yes.
But several of them, including Volvo, for example, or Daimler, are testing various powertrains, and with the hope of bringing to the market several solutions or something that really suits with the customer needs.
Yeah, exactly. And this is how I understood Dr. Zohm as well, that he's doing this to test whether it's perceived well by the customer, because at the end of the day, the customer makes a decision which products. I've seen some projects of yours, if I recall it correctly, where you announced these stations together with Scania. What is your most ambitious OEM in terms of hydrogen mobility in the trucking sector? Because many have worked on this, but you probably are looking for people who can help you scale up this vision fast with usage of your stations.
Yes. So you're asking me to pick sides?
No, not, but you can highlight the ones that you feel that you don't need to. But
I think the important thing is that all of them are looking at H2 with
Yes.
different angles. So Daimler,
Yeah.
it's all about fuel cell and liquid hydrogen.
Yes.
They have this joint venture with Volvo to build fuel cells, and they are betting heavily on liquid
Right.
hydrogen. Volvo is developing two types of vehicles: one hydrogen-powered vehicle with Westport, and another one with a fuel cell that they're co-developing with Cellcentric with Daimler. MAN, we spoke about MAN just a second ago. You have also you have Scania,
Yes.
which I think are developing things and will probably make announcements in the near future. So the bottom line is that everyone is
Active.
Not everyone is at scale, for sure.
Yeah.
We're only talking about prototypes. We're only talking about pre-series. But none of them have discarded H2. And Iveco, just to pick one that we work on a daily basis,
Right.
has just produced 12 fuel cell vehicles,
Right.
6 of which will be used and are already being used in our station. We just had 2 stations opened in
That
Germany.
was the announcement with Iveco, not with Scania.
Exactly.
Yes. Sorry, that was my mistake.
No, so these stations, there's one station in Leipzig, one station in Nuremberg. Today we have 3 trucks, Iveco trucks, doing back and forth between those 2 stations. The Leipzig station is next to the BMW plant.
Yes.
And BMW, as you know, is
forklifts,
doing forklifts, but also preparing has launched a prototype to prepare the mass production of a Series 5/X5 vehicle, hydrogen powered by 2027 or 2028. So we are working with all of those truck manufacturers. One that is very active and that is a pioneer also, although it's not necessarily for the long haul, but it's Hyundai. Hyundai has got
for many years.
Yes, more than 100 trucks in circulation in between Germany and Switzerland. We are, our customers have ordered some of these trucks. So, and one last element to address your question. Our 2 stations in Leipzig and Nuremberg, which we are just commissioned in April, they actually have the 2 types of powertrain running in parallel.
Yeah.
So you have Volvo retrofitted trucks retrofitted by Dutz and Kiu, running in parallel to Iveco fuel cell trucks.
All right.
So the data pertaining to consumption, pros and cons of both technologies is going to be very interesting to analyze, because you have a real life experiment of logistics, clean logistics, with 2 types of hydrogen powered vehicles.
Yeah. So I actually think that the truck manufacturers are a customer on their own, because it would be easy to demand from their suppliers that they request a delivery with clean mobility, right? And I think that because I used to talk to an M&A lead, and he said, don't wait for the market, build it. Yeah. And I think that you have powerful stakeholders behind, which can also contribute to building the demand, not only waiting for the demand, right?
You're absolutely right. I think it goes back to the point we mentioned earlier of self-reliance. But there are some very good examples of that. I can mention one of my shareholders, Air Liquide, that has started to initiate a clean fleet initiative to move hydrogen and gas cylinders with hydrogen-powered trucks in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
I could speak about Toyota, who today runs trucks to move spare parts through trucks, featuring their fuel cell.
Right.
Because Toyota is indeed
one of the major players.
One of the major players to produce at scale fuel cells. And BMW, as I mentioned just now, is with our 2 stations, is through DHL, through an agreement with DHL, is using hydrogen-powered trucks provided by Iveco to move spare parts into their Leipzig plant. So you have to eat your own dog food, as the Americans say. You have to test your own product,
Yeah.
and support them in that way.
Yeah. Speaking about BMW, because at their conference in Munich, you announced a cooperation with BMW. Is that basically focused on what you have just explained, or do you have bigger plans?
We're testing a collaboration with BMW with those 2 stations, as you are well aware. But it goes back. The relationship between one of our shareholders, TotalEnergies, and BMW, go back a long way, actually.
Okay.
Because there were some co-developments in the past.
Okay.
For stations,
Right.
especially with a focus on liquid H2. And we are exploring several new projects.
This is good.
We can talk about in the near future, I hope.
Yeah. No, this is great to hear, and I think this is also one thing that I have learned when I started my own business, that it's still the trust between people, and the history matters, because the paperwork, I always say as a lawyer, the best contract is the one you don't need. Yeah, and I say this with pride, because if you have a trustful relationship and a shared vision, you can get along quite nicely without a contract, right? But still, contract matters. So there is one thing that I think we have not touched upon, is there is this EU alternative fuel infrastructure directive. Lots of talking about. What does it actually require? And is that helping your business or the hydrogen economy as a whole?
Yeah, it's very important. It's where the rubber meets the road. It's where theory meets practice.
Right.
So it's a mandate to create a network of stations to promote hydrogen refueling across corridors. So each member state has its own target, and is capable and willing to promote that through various methods. It can be through local subsidies, national subsidies, but it can also be done through European subsidies. And you have European subsidies that are available and that we use on a regular basis to support our investment drive. So yes, this regulation is critical because it creates a momentum to build infrastructure while reducing the risk.
It's coming up nicely because there is another regulation that targets the truck manufacturers, saying they need to get a cleaner fleet. But is there a specific number in this alternative fuel cell directive where we could say by the end of year we will have 500 stations in Europe? Or what does it actually mean, a mandate? Is it now binding?
So it's under review first.
Okay, it's not yet.
No, it has been set in the past, but the targets are under review next year.
Okay.
But to speak about it in general terms, the current mandate is that you need to build hydrogen stations every 200 kilometers on the 10T corridors, which are the main corridors used, plus some extra stations in urban nodes. And that these stations have to have the capacity to service trucks as well as light vehicles. So you have to be able to operate at 700 bar as well as 350 bar and have a capacity of at least 1 ton per day. So they're quite, they make the way, they pave the way for investment across Europe to create a network of refueling infrastructure.
And the people who are obligated are the member states. So it's not that the oil and gas companies, it's the member states, and they need to make sure in their country that the European targets are fulfilled with
Yes.
different type of measures.
Absolutely. So they
Okay.
can do that through national subsidies or reverse auctions or different ways to
To
promote
foster that.
to foster that and promote investment.
So we have two major developments, both in France and in Germany. In France, we recently had an upgrade of the hydrogen strategy. And in Germany, we have a new government with a coalition agreement. So two questions. Is there now a push for hydrogen from France? And what do you make about the new agreements in Germany?
Yeah. So both countries are critical for the success and the development of H2. I mean, they've long been pioneers in hydrogen. France has got lots of advantage because it can produce at scale large quantities of low carbon hydrogen.
Okay.
And it has also several players involved in fuel cell manufacturing.
Yes.
That being said, the latest amendment of the national strategy shows less support for long-haul trucking
Okay.
than the previous one.
Oh, really?
Yes, which is a bit disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
In Germany, the situation is quite different.
Yes.
Germany has put on hold its support for more than 2 years.
Yeah.
But with the new coalition now, and you've read the program, there's a very strong support for hydrogen, and typically to promote station infrastructure developments and trucking subsidies for hydrogen trucks, which is welcome. So I think Germany will relaunch on the back of that its major support and subsidies and policies toward H2. At the same time, Germany has also, at the beginning of January, put in place a tax on hydrogen dispense to combustion engines.
Oh, really?
Yes, which can impair the development of hydrogen-powered vehicles.
Right.
Fuel cells are exempt, but hydrogen engines are not. So I would not say that one country is better advanced or more promoting H2. But I would say that the country that really does its utmost to promote hydrogen is probably the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Because they have the OWE system in place to promote the production of green hydrogen for the producer, even for small scale installation, and the support can go up to €9 per kilo.
Right.
And they also have the SWIM subsidy system to promote investment in infrastructure, but also in trucks, with support up to €300,000 per vehicle.
Yeah.
So in the Netherlands today, you promote the entirety of the value chain, which I think is also why the Netherlands is developing quite fast. That being said,
they have their decision of the people regarding Groningen, where they say, let's get out of natural gas, which is sending a big signal. And they are near offshore where the hydrogen will be produced. So they are placed very well.
Absolutely. You're right. I mean, they have decided to stop natural gas.
Yeah.
Because of the issues.
The people decided, not the government. Yeah, that I think is quite unique. Yeah.
Because with the earthquakes and so H2 has further chance of development because of that consensus, and consensus is important in the Netherlands.
You spoke about the advantage of France with low carbon hydrogen, and I don't want to go in the colors of hydrogen, but how green will be the hydrogen that you deliver at your hydrogen station? Is it green from the very first beginning, or do you put in gray hydrogen and mix it over time into green? What is the approach?
Yeah, it's a very important question because for sure our objective is to help decarbonize. So we promote low carbon and renewable hydrogen. Today, close to 2/3, more than 2/3 actually, of our supply is low carbon and green.
Okay.
That's thanks to Benelux and France. In Germany, things are a bit different because there's not yet enough green and low carbon hydrogen at scale.
Right.
And the issue is, of course, we want to go green, but we have to do it. We have to make sure that hydrogen remains affordable. So you have to find the right balance between affordability and accessibility. And Germany will follow in the coming years and be able to avail more green and low carbon hydrogen as projects which have under construction today or near final investment decisions materialize and avail more hydrogen. Because what we also need is more redundancy on the supply side. As you know, Germany has witnessed for the last couple of months a kind of a difficult situation where after the issue in next to Leuna, so hydrogen has been scarce. And when you don't have enough hydrogen, the color of hydrogen matters less than finding hydrogen to continue operating your trucks, your stations, and your factories.
So there are lots of investments going into also local production in electrolyzers. So if I understand you correctly, you as a joint venture do not always buy from Air Liquide. You're also open for third-party suppliers. And if this is a good message, so if somebody can supply you with hopefully green hydrogen to afford a price, you are open for that.
Absolutely. Right? Today, Thiel Mobility has 6 suppliers of hydrogen.
Okay.
So not just 1 or 2.
Okay.
Not just one of its shareholders or the other one. No, we source through competitive tenders.
Right.
Preferably locally, close to our station, as long as it's sustainable in terms of
quality,
but also in terms of stability of supply and economic terms. Then it's our interest to source as close as possible to our station and through competitive tenders. So the best supplier wins. And
so this is a good news. So because probably also some people don't know this, that they can approach you if they believe they can supply you with green hydrogen for a good condition. You're open to that.
Absolutely. And the same goes, by the way, for equipment.
Okay.
Today we have stations which were built by Air Liquide, which were built by Linde, which were built by Resato, which were built by Total, so we welcome all
good suppliers
and equipment suppliers and integrator.
Okay, great. One last question regarding this hydrogen supply. We had this topic of liquid versus gaseous hydrogen, and you mentioned that Daimler seems to be in favor of liquid hydrogen. What is your take? Is this slowing down things, or you are currently operating gaseous hydrogen stations? Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Today our focus is really on gaseous hydrogen.
Right.
We look at liquid. Because there are 2 parts to liquid. There's a part of supply into the station as liquid, and there's a part as dispensing as liquid. So liquid is a way to optimize logistic upstream of the station and to reduce the logistical cost and the cost of transportation to bring hydrogen to the station. That being said, in order for that to work, you need liquefaction capacity, and there are only 3 liquefaction units in Europe. Maybe there will be more in the future, but today there's very limited capacity for liquid H2. What is available, however, is gaseous. So that's readily available and today much more affordable than liquid. And at the end of the day, you can either regasify your liquid at the station to sell in gaseous form, or keep it in liquid form and dispense in liquid form to the vehicle.
Right.
And as you rightfully say, today there's one truck manufacturer, Daimler namely, that is developing a truck that can be filled in liquid form. Maybe there will be others We'll be monitoring them. We're talking to Daimler on a regular basis,
Yeah.
and with the hope of supporting them when the market has reached the maturity and there's more appetite for liquid.
So you're currently concentrating on gases, but you're open also for liquid, but you want to make progress now with gaseous hydrogen.
Exactly. All our projects today are gaseous.
Right, yeah. And so I cannot close this call or this podcast because I'm so curious. You're a French professional now, and there is a lot of talking about different behavior, French versus German. I would be really interested what you think about us Germans, because we have our own view, but I like to do holiday in France, but I would be really interested where you see the difference in the business behavior with a smile. Yeah,
sure.
So can you share your view on Germany?
Yeah. I would say that Germany and France are alike in many ways, first and foremost. We share an appetite and an interest in excellence, in innovation. But you're right, there are also some cultural aspects which are quite different.
Yeah.
The French tend to be quite implicit in their communication. We can be straightforward for sure, but we often exhibit a capacity to be hierarchical and to be implicit in the way we speak.
Yeah.
The Germans tend to be more consensus driven, where less hierarchical. You're a federation, but your communication is much more explicit than the French. So yes, there are these differences. I think Germans focus on clarity of expression and efficiency. But I think as a European organization, Thiel Mobility, we need to have it both ways. We want to be creative and also methodical.
Yeah.
We need to take bold risk, but do a careful analysis at the same time. I would say that we are united in our diversity.
And there is another thing, we both like croissants, right? So we are also united on that side.
Yeah.
So one general topic, because before we come to the close, I think your shareholders is on one hand side a big oil company and a gas company. I think that Air Liquide and Total are cooperating also on other projects. So is this now the dynamic duo that is driven to really decarbonize European society in many ways, not only in the hydrogen refueling, but that the two of you try to make a bigger impact?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I cannot speak on behalf of my shareholders.
Yeah. Just share your impression as a private person.
As a private person, I think it's great when large industrial groups come together and share knowledge and projects.
Yeah.
Thiel Mobility is a product of that.
Best of both worlds.
Shared expertise, best of both worlds, yes, with the capacity to rely on the shoulder of giants.
Yeah.
In terms of technical, financial support, technical expertise, but also with a structure that enables you to be creative and take fast-paced action and decisions. And it's true for hydrogen mobility. It's also true for decarbonization of refineries. So I think it's good to know that it's good to see that things are moving, and that Air Liquide and Total Energies have many projects to bring to the table.
Yeah, and I think the industry needs leaders that give trust and give that they can follow also. Yeah, and. It's great to see that. Now, coming back on a personal outlook. So I want to put you now in the year 2030. and try to look back on your career and also what you might have achieved in the last years. So, what would you like to have achieved in that year? What would be the thing that you are really driven to achieve in that time period?
I think by 2030, I will be quite content if we've built a great team, motivated to contribute to the decarbonization of mobility at scale. So no longer in a niche market, but in a commodity market. And together, they would have achieved two things, which are simple words, but very hard to get to, which is to make hydrogen more affordable and more accessible. So more affordable, it's with a lower price at the pump so that we can spearhead adoption. And more accessible means two things. It means it's closer to where it matters, but also more reliable in terms of our capacity to operate our infrastructure. So by 2030, if we've got that, a motivated team that delivers hydrogen in a more affordable and more accessible way, then we can say that Thiel Mobility would have been a successful project.
Great. And so to lower the burden of your shoulders, I give you one unique opportunity to make a wish. What would be your wish that you would love to see from other stakeholders or from government that helps boost hydrogen mobility? What is it?
I would say 3.
Oh, you only have one wish.
Yes, but I only have one wish. Okay, so I have to choose between two things.
Yeah.
So I'll take two things.
What would be the most important thing?
I think the most important thing is to have truck manufacturers, several truck manufacturers. So I would say 3 that have a commercial at-scale offer of long-haul hydrogen-powered trucks available for the market.
Okay.
And in parallel, I know I'm asking for a second wish, but okay. Yes. In parallel, I would like to have France, Germany, and Netherlands with renewable certificates in place to lower the cost and the price at the pump of hydrogen for mobility users. If we can have that, if we can have large-scale choice from truck manufacturers and a lower price at the pump through renewable credits, then I think we have a very good platform on which our project, but also the hydrogen mobility at large can succeed.
And if now, so this is great, and we see we are creating a digital asset which will be seen also in the year 2030. So we can jointly reflect on that in that time frame. But if you now come back to the listener and seeing such a successful person like you who made a great career both in corporate and now having the chance to lead a very international team, what would be your advice to our listeners to give them a chance to follow your steps and be as successful as you as a leader?
I would say, whatever the opportunity is, never feel that you deserve it.
Okay.
Because the moment you think you deserve it, or let me put it in another way, if you never think that you deserve it, you stay humble, you stay alert, and you are grateful. I think that would be the trick that I would propose.
Okay, great.
To be successful.
So, thank you very much for this insightful dialogue. It was fascinating how you maneuvered both the personal level of Florentin and the corporate world that we now have a better insight. I think I have learned a lot, and I think that many people will learn how passionate also people in big corporates can be to drive such an important industry forward. So thank you for coming here, and thank you for doing this. together with us.
Thanks for this opportunity, Bjorn, and thanks for your time and your questions, insightful, and this invitation to share.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.